Today we're taking a look at these NCAAF matches, which are happening on Friday, December 3, 2021, and giving you match breakdowns, betting tips and predictions in general on these games. Welcome back to High Stakes, let's get straight into it. Also, don't forget to subscribe to get notified as soon as we release these sport prediction videos, and if you would like more betting tips and predictions, then check out our Patreon in the link down below. Our new Patreon is a way for us to help you improve your chances of making more money. 5 plans are available for each and every one of you. You can get 30 extra betting picks all the way up to 270 extra betting picks per month. Stop wasting hours of your time searching for bad betting advice that ends up costing you a lot of money. Join the High Stakes Patreon now and get the best betting picks and advice. Western Kentucky vs UTSA. Western Kentucky has one of the best defenses in the country. They average 43.3 points and 525.1 yards per game. They are second in the country in total yards per game and first in passing yards. Their quarterback, Bailey Zapp, leads the country in total yards and has a 70% completion percentage with 52 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. Their defense is decent as well and allows 27 points per game and 411.3 yards per game. They have played good football this season and will look to continue that right into a good bowl game. They have been to a bowl game in 8 of their last 10 seasons including this season, and a win in the conference championship game will help get them to an even bigger bowl game. UTSA was one of 3 undefeated teams in FBS before their loss last week. Their defense got completely blown out last week and allowed 45 points and 456 yards. This is unusual for a team that allows on average 22.2 points and 346.8 yards per game. It was the most points allowed by the Roadrunners all season, except for their earlier matchup against Western Kentucky. This is still UTSA's best season ever despite the loss. They will look to win their first ever conference championship and move on to a good bowl game. The Roadrunners have been known for their defense this year, despite their blowout loss last week. Their offense has not been bad either though. When they met Western Kentucky earlier this year, their defense allowed 46 points, but their offense outscored them and put up 52 points. They averaged 36.9 points and 433.5 yards per game. Their defense is still good and had a bad game, but they could bounce back in this one and get some stops against Western Kentucky. The more likely scenario is that this game turns out just like the last time they met and it turns into a shootout. Our first betting advice is to pick UTSA plus 2.5. The Roadrunners were a solid bet all season at 8-4, although they have failed to cover in 3 straight games after scraping by Southern Miss as a massive favorite and being taken to the wire by UAB. Overs are an even 6-6 for the Roadrunners, with 4 of their last 5 games going over the betting total. This is a top 15 offense nationally, with the Roadrunners piling up a healthy 36.9 points and 433.9 yards per game this season. UTSA's defense also generally played well in the regular season, with opponents putting up 22.2 points and 346.4 yards per contest. Harris provides strong dual-threat playmaking, having completed 222 of 335 passes for 2,688 yards, 23 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, while adding 94 carries for 484 yards and 5 more scores. McCormick turned in another huge season with 263 carries for 1,275 yards and 12 touchdowns, while Zachary Franklin is the team's top pass catcher at 67 receptions for 871 yards and 10 scores. Clarence Hicks is a standout on the Roadrunners defense with 31 tackles, including 14 for a loss, 8 sacks, 1 interception and 1 forced fumble. There are no official injuries to report for UTSA after it appeared all its starters are healthy following the North Texas game, including guard Kevin Davis, who recently returned from an extended absence. Harris was a little banged up and held out of the second half against North Texas, with the game out of reach, but indications are he is good to go for Friday. Our second betting advice is to pick under 73.5. Quick reminder, BetUS is a platform that offers betting on all major sport and horse racing leagues. It has slots, table games, blackjack, and a variety of other casino games. All of the major US leagues are available for betting, including the NFL, NBA, NHL, MLB, and PGA. In addition, BetUS allows wagers on esports, Olympic events, soccer, cricket, boxing, cycling, and many more competitions. Join BetUS now using our link down below and get 125% cashback bonus on your first deposit on the sportsbook after you open an account and deposit using our link and use our promo code HIGHSTAKES. Oregon vs Utah. Oregon scored an average of 33.2 points during the regular season, while averaging 214.0 yards rushing, which was 18th in the nation, and 220.4 yards passing per game. Anthony Brown ended the regular season with 25.36 yards passing with 15 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, and was the second leading rusher with 642 yards and 9 touchdowns. Travis Dye rushed for 1,036 yards with 14 touchdowns and averaged 5.8 yards per carry. Devin Williams was the leading receiver during the regular season with 540 yards and 4 touchdowns, with an average of 15.9 yards per reception. Utah is known for its defense, but the Utes' offense averaged 35.4 points per game, which was 41st in the nation. Utah averaged 218.2 yards rushing, which was 13th in the nation, and 216.1 yards passing. Cameron Rising completed 62.8% of his passes for 2,109 yards, with 17 touchdowns and only 3 interceptions. Tavion Thomas, who rushed for 3 touchdowns against Oregon, had 978 yards rushing with 18 touchdowns. Tight end Brent Kuthi had 43 receptions for 522 yards and 6 touchdowns, with an average of 12.1 yards per reception. Oregon completed its regular season at 10-2 overall and 7-2 in the Pac-12. One of Oregon's 2 losses this season was to this same Utah team 38-7 just 2 weeks ago. The Ducks were blown out in that loss, and that will be on the minds of both coaches and players heading into this matchup on Friday. Oregon was physically beaten up by Utah in the first meeting, and Oregon must get better play out of its defensive end Kayvon Thibodeau, who is considered by most the best defensive player in the Pac-12, but was a non-factor in the 31-point loss to the Utes. Our first betting advice is to pick Utah Utes minus 2.5 on the season. Rising is completing 62.8% of his passes for 2,109 yards, with 17 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. 2 weeks ago, Rising was able to manage the game against Oregon, completing 10 of 18 passes for 178 yards in the win. The Utes' running game was highly successful in the first game against the Ducks, as they rushed 50 times for 208 yards with 4 touchdowns. Tavion Thomas, a sophomore running back, carried the rock 21 times against Oregon and picked up 94 yards and 3 touchdowns. On the season, Thomas has run for 978 yards with 18 touchdowns on 5.8 yards per attempt. Utah is averaging 35.3 ppg, which is 22nd in the nation, and 38th, picking up 434.4 yards of total offense. Utah has been balanced, averaging 216.1 passing yards and 218.3 yards rushing per game. Defensively, the Utes are 29th in the nation, holding the opposition to just 21.5 ppg, and 18th, only allowing 325.3 total yards. Our second betting advice is to pick under 60.